Today we are going to cover quite a bit of stuff, and the timing is, I think, fortuitous with everything that's happening. Joining me from our office are all of the advisors: Nancy, Bobby, Nick, Gail, Dan, Raj, Joe, and Mark. And also we have Sarah, Roseanne, Polly, Marge, and Kelly, who greeted you as you came in. Also from Raymond James, going to be speaking in a few minutes, we have Josh Bolander and David Sizemore, both who came up from Tampa for our nice summer weather. And then from our Carver Cares partner, we're going to introduce in a few minutes, we have Joe Tomsick and Ann Sheely. What I want to talk about today is kind of update you a little bit on what's happening with us, what's happening with the markets, talk about some of the things from Raymond James, and of course answer any of your questions. If you do think of things afterwards, feel free to approach myself or any of our team, or of course you can call us at any time. And while Josh and I are speaking, just put a hand up and we will certainly try to answer anything we can. On your tables, there are annual reports for this year, which have a lot of background on some of the things we're going to be talking about. And then also, there's some links to some information and some resources from Raymond James that you may find helpful. First and foremost, I want to thank you guys. 2018 was a very good year. You know, we received a lot of recognitions, mainly because of you guys, but certainly we're starting to see more, if it's possible, political contentiousness, more volatility, which I didn't really think was possible after the 2016 election, but seems like even last night a bunch of people announced for 2020, so already into that. But regardless of what happens, our team's going to be here for you. We've done this for 30-some years, and certainly we hope to do it for at least another 30 going forward. One of the things you'll see in the annual reports is a breakdown of our team. In the last year, we've added several new advisors. You may have met Kelly coming in, who's heading up our community relations. And we're really having more of a focus on trying to support the community and do some more things locally. We're going to talk about the building expansion coming into this year. But the bottom line is, I think what we do is very different. We're not an investment firm. We're not a financial planning firm. What we do is personal vision planning. We want to help our clients achieve their vision, whatever it may be. And so the investments at the end of the day are really just tools. And I think there are a number of advantages that we have, one of which is we've gotten big enough in terms of assets that we can be very selective in who we work with. And so we can spend the time with each person based on what they need and they want. We don't use any models. This industry is moving towards preset models for people and towards discretion, or you put your money with an advisor like a Fisher Investments or a Lighthouse, and they basically just do what they do with it and tell you what they did. We don't make any changes without speaking to our clients. And that's one of the reasons our team has grown from 15 people a few years ago to 22, and we're in the process of hiring 2 more people this year, mainly on the client service side. So, and then the other thing is, and something that has been true since 1990, is our relationship with Raymond James. When I went out and set up the company, our goal was to build a service business, not an investment business. And partnering with Raymond James gives us access to a lot of resources that we would not have otherwise, including a trust company, a bank, research, legal, all those sorts of things that really are at your disposal. And you hear about some new things coming up, which are, I think, pretty exciting. One of the things that's always been important to us, the vision for the firm has always been to make people's lives better, our clients, our team, and our community. And we've done a number of things which are listed in the annual report. as far as our philanthropic efforts. And you guys should be really proud, because you guys are the ones that support this. You have donated over 200,000 meals to people in Lake County since 1990. You've raised well over $100,000 for people in Lake County. And one of the things that we found and started in 2013 is there are a lot of great organizations, but people don't know they're out there. So we started a new program called Carver Cares. The idea being at events like this, we just take a minute to introduce you to local nonprofits that really make a difference you may not even be aware of, and tell you a little bit about what they do. So today's Carver Care partner is Lake County Council on Aging. And these guys have been around for more than 30 years. There is some information outside. And it's interesting because a recent study by the Lake County Commissioners projected that people 60 and older in Lake County right now is about 22% of the population. So roughly 1 in 5. But in the next 12 years, it's going to grow to about 33%. So 1 in 3 people is going to be over 60. The Lake County Council on Aging today provides more than 750 meals per day to seniors in the county. They've got a couple programs for that. They're a phenomenal resource. If people have questions on things they need, we refer clients to them as far as services for seniors, Medicare, anything that's related to seniors. They continue to grow at about 67% of their budgets from the levy, the senior levy, 15% from some grants, and then the rest comes from us. So, as I said, Joe Tomsic, the CEO, is here. Ann Sheely's here. There's some information out there, and there's also information on your tables. As always, if people choose to do anything with them, we will match it up to $4,000 because we think it's an important organization and something that really benefits us all. Unfortunately, me in a few years. So try to help me out here. God knows I need it. So one of the questions we get a lot is, what's the market going to do? What's the economy going to do? And I would suggest to you that's not the most important question. The question we need to ask is not what's the market going to do, but how's it going to affect me? You know, if the market goes down and I've got plenty of income and I can do what I want, it's irrelevant. Conversely, if the markets go up and I don't have enough money, it's still a big problem. So ultimately, we don't really know exactly what's going to happen. However, I don't think it matters. With our process, the way that we invest, again, because it's based on your specific needs and vision, is to make sure that you can maintain your lifestyle today and then in the future. And that's been proven out over the last 30 years. But I think in doing so, people often focus on the wrong risks. December was arguably the worst December for the broader markets ever. It's like people say it's like a roller coaster. And I'd suggest it is. You know, roller coasters are pretty scary. And in fact, I don't like to ride the damn things. I think it's a control issue. But ultimately, it's fine as long as you stay on the ride. If you jump off that thing halfway, you're going to get hurt. And it's the same thing with the portfolios. If you're in a well-diversified, well-thought-out portfolio, yes, broader market movements will impact it. And if you open your December statement, you know that. But as long as you don't jump off, it's not going to hurt you. And so I think one of the things that we need to look at is what's the real risk? You know, it's funny, you talk about fear of things. A lot of people are afraid of flying, and yet you don't see people afraid of driving. Now, statistically, your chances of dying in a traffic accident are about 1 in 5,000. The chances of dying in an airplane crash are 1 in 11 million. I mean, it's clearly much, much safer. But at the same time, the fear of flying, it's not a logical thing, it's an emotional thing. And that's the same thing with the portfolios. I think people, you know, the fear is not very logical. It is more of an emotional thing. And we have to start to think about why are we afraid of that? And I would suggest to you, a lot of that's because of the media. How many of you think crime in the United States today, if we go back 20, 25 years, is it up, down, or the same? 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 Violent crime in the United States from 1990 to 2016 has dropped by 50% per capita. But when you turn on the news, all you hear about is this, that, or the next thing. So it feels like, things are getting worse. But as of 2017, according to the FBI, that the crime is much lower. But again, we're inundated with media. There's 8,500 magazines and newspapers, over 1,700 commercial TV stations, and 192,000 active websites. And the problem is, they're all competing for your attention. And they're competing for advertising dollars. So we've all heard the phrase, if it bleeds, it leads. Because they want to sensationalize stuff. And so the perception, for example, with the broader economy or the markets, there's always a tilt to the negative. And we're going to talk about it because I would argue that the economy today is probably in the best shape it's been in 50 years, but by almost any objective measure. But you just don't hear about that much, so it feels like, things are really, really awful. If you look at the typical market swings over time, and keep in mind, none of our clients are invested purely in the market. We don't have a client that owns just the S&P or just the Dow. So talking about the market, in one sense, is almost irrelevant, but it's so prevalent in the media that I think it's an important thing to touch on. But, and you guys have seen this chart because I emailed it to people last month. But essentially what it says is if you look at market corrections throughout the year, which are the little diamonds at the bottom, on average the market intra-year has been down 14% in the middle of the year. Last year, we didn't see anything like that. Now December it dropped fairly hard, but it wasn't even close to what the normal swing is. And if you look at most of those diamonds, even when you've had a down year, where you ended up, which is the blue line, is up, as long as people didn't jump out. So again, I think the perception of more volatility, more problems, it is just that, it's a perception. Two clues, when the media talks about points, the market dropped or went up 1,000 points. Points today, because the market's so high, are not the same as they were 5 or 10 years ago. When the Dow Jones is at 2,000 and it moves 500 points, that's a 25% swing. That's huge. But when the Dow Jones is at 26,000 and it moves 500 points, it's about a 2% swing. It's nothing. So when the media talks about a point swing, that should be kind of a clue how, it's not a big deal. When they start talking about percentages, that's a little bit of a different story. The other thing that's exacerbating these movements is program trading, computers or algorithms. And according to CNN, on average today, computers account for 50 to 60% of the trading. When you look at a busy day, which is what we had in December, 90% of that are computers. It's not people. And so what happens is when stuff starts to go down, the computers start to sell, which triggers other ones to sell, which triggers other ones, and it just exponentially feeds on itself. Vice versa, as it starts to go up, they start to buy, and it feeds up, and that's why you see these big 800,000 point days up or down. I don't know what the answer is. I don't know if that's good or bad, but it's just something to be aware of as far as why you're getting some of these swings. I don't see the whole algorithm thing changing because that's the direction we're moving. So, one of the things that happened last year was the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. This was one of the biggest tax cuts in history. Happened in February. And as much as people talk about, well, the economy's not doing well, this or that, has anybody here tried to go out to eat and mentor during the week? I mean, are the restaurants empty? No. Yeah, it's crazy. If you drive around Mentor, do you see help wanted signs? Yeah, they're looking for jobs. Nationally, there's 7 million open jobs right now. So with this tax act, basically what they did is created some lower marginal tax rates for individuals, estates, etc. Oh, we're supposed to move 2 vehicles from the fire lane. There's a Volkswagen, a white Volkswagen, FHE 2444, and a black GMC. Oh good, it's not mine. So anyway, you got a black GMC HIW 4208 and a Volkswagen that are in the fire lane. So if those are yours, you probably move them before Marty tows them. So with the Tax Act, they did cut taxes for individuals, significant changes to the deductions. We're going to touch on that in a minute. They did get rid of the personal exemptions, but they doubled the standard deduction. There are really no changes to retirement education incentives, although they increased the amount you could put into Roths and IRAs by $500. And then the individual mandate to purchase health insurance effectively was repealed. One of the things about this, when you look, it was not necessarily this big tax cut for the wealthy. The change on the individual side, in fact, if you're making between 93 and 195,000, effectively your tax rate went up about 4%. But people at the lower end of the range, below 93,000, the taxes should go down, and a little bit at the higher. Capital gains rates, this is a gift. If your income is below $77,200, you pay no tax on capital gains. None. If your income is below 420 or 479,000, you're only paying 15% on capital gains. And even with incomes over 479, and this is adjusted after exemption or after deductions, etc., the tax is only 20%. This could be a big opportunity to start to shift some things right now, because I don't believe you're going to see rates this low again for a long time, if ever. And certainly if if the White House and Congress flip in 2020, you've already got a bunch of people saying they want a 70% marginal tax rate north of 400,000. And so, I don't know it's going to be 70%, but keep in mind that's what it was in 1982. And back in the 60s, the top rate was 91%. So there is an opportunity possibly to realize some capital gains right now, especially if you're not paying any tax on them. The big change was with deductions. The standard deduction was doubled from $12,000 to $24,000 for a couple, and from $6,000 to $12,000 for a single. So a lot of people that may have itemized probably are not. It also means if you're doing some charitable stuff, it may not be deductible, which we're going to talk about in a second. But the other thing's mortgage interest. You can still deduct it if you're itemizing, as long as your total debt is below $750,000. And you can still deduct home equity, but there's some limitations. One big change, especially for people in higher tax states like New Jersey, Hawaii, New York, is that state and local taxes, you can only write off up to $10,000 now. So a lot of people pay a lot more than that in state, local, real estate tax, that type of thing. So a lot of people are not going to be able to deduct that. And then, as I say, some of the deduction for charitable, for cash, they did increase from a 50% threshold to 60%. This is a big one, the alternative minimum tax. It's still there, but it's going to apply to far, far fewer people. How many of you guys got caught in AMT? You know, yeah, a few of you. So according to Tax Policy Center, about 5 million people paid AMT in 2017. In 2018, it'd be about 200,000. So that's a big change. Other items, the ability to undo Roth conversions, converting from an IRA to a Roth. You used to be able to reverse it. You can't do that now. Once you convert it, it's converted. We do believe for some people, and again, that's why we need to talk to people individually, that given the market dip and the relatively low tax rates, there is a good opportunity right now to convert from IRAs to Roths. You do pay tax at the time you convert it, but then every penny going forward is tax-free. How many people here think taxes are going down in the future? Anybody think they're going up in the future? Yeah. So if you can pay the tax now, it's something to talk to your CPA about. The other huge one is itemized deductions do not get phased out based on income. It used to be you start to lose your itemized deductions once you made about 160,000 and you lost potentially 80-some% of them. 529 plans for college, they now expanded that. You can now use that for K through 12. So if you have grandchildren, children in private schools, you can now use up to $10,000 a year tax-free for that. And a big one, and it's a big opportunity, is qualified charitable distributions are now a permanent part of the tax law. And what that says is if you have an IRA or 401k and you're over 70 and a half, so you must make required minimum distributions. If it goes directly to a charity, you pay no tax on that money at all. You can do as many charities as you want. The only cap is you can't do more than $100,000 a year in aggregate. But think about it. For a lot of people, if they can't write off their charitable donations because of the change to the deductions, they could now use this if they're taking distributions from their IRA. I'm not saying you should make more charitable contributions, but if you're already doing it, you may as well use tax-free dollars to do so. Something like this is pretty simple. In our case, you would simply give us a list of the charities and the amounts, and then we would take care of it. There is something to be aware of, though. If you do that, you need to let your CPA know you did it. And if you did it last year, that's very important because the IRS is always behind. They don't report that you did this. So let's say you took out $10,000 from your IRA and you gave it to charity. You're still going to get a 1099 that says you took $10,000 out of your IRA. The CPA has to put it on the tax return as a non-taxable distribution, but they're not notified of that. There's no IRS form yet to tell them. So you're kind of on the honor system. And then we suggest that on the tax return you write QCD. So it kind of gives the IRS a clue. Not that they have one already, but it's a start. Does anybody have any questions on all that? Kind of throwing a lot of stuff at you guys. Okay. This is huge, and I think this is one of the biggest things that's not being spoken about, but that's going to drive the economy this year. They cut the tax rate for companies from 35 to 21%. Now the reality is GE, Apple, those guys don't pay any taxes anyway. And a lot of companies, I think Eaton pays about 13% effective. Lubrizol probably pays the same. So the cut for those guys, it's not a big deal. But 90% of business in the United States is small business. And small businesses, pass-through businesses, were paying at the personal rate last year, which was 39.6%. Now they're going to pay 21%. So effectively, they're saving about half on their taxes. And I think a lot of these people, at least in conversations we have with our clients, they don't know how much money they're going to get back or how much they're saving. Because frankly, the software wasn't even done. Some of it's still not done to calculate this stuff. And I think what you're going to see in the first and second quarter is a tremendous amount of money coming in to the economy. Because when people get this money, they can really do one of three things with it. They can spend it on fun stuff, they can invest it in the business, or they can save it. But every one of those is good for the economy, other than just putting cash under the mattress. Now, what you're going to hear, and I think it's true, from the media is, oh my God, we have higher inflation. Inflation's going up. Inflation, by definition, is too much money chasing too few goods. I think that's right. Interest rates are going up, inflation's going up. Things aren't perfect. But that can also drive the broader equity markets up. And so this, and then the other thing that's happening is for the next 5 years, businesses, instead of depreciating assets when they invest, instead of taking a deduction over 15, 20, 30 years, they can write it all off. I believe it's up to $1 million. So businesses are starting to spend a lot of money on stuff. And I think in 2019, you're going to see more of that because they have an incentive to do it. If they spend it, they can write it off. It's basically costs them no tax on that money. And then finally, they've cut the tax on money that's offshore, 15.5% on cash. And we'll talk about that in a second because there's over $1 trillion overseas, and 8% on what they call non-liquid assets. And that's one of the reasons you're seeing more and more manufacturing coming back to the United States. So, a couple things, we touched on these. Think about using your required minimum distributions to fund any charitable intent. Think about converting IRAs to Roths. And then if you're close to itemizing, what you may want to do is bundle deductions. And you want to talk to your CPA about this. So if you think you're going to have some things that are deductible this year and next year, but it's not enough to hit the threshold, you may want to do it all in 1 year. And that way you can hit the number. And again, we'd encourage you to work with your CPA on that. The estate tax rules have changed significantly. And essentially, there's no federal estate tax till you're over $22 million. So pretty much nobody's going to pay estate tax federally. Ohio got rid of their state estate tax. There's still about 14 states that have them. But one thing that's important, couple things, and we encourage you to work with an estate planning attorney. If you don't have one, we'll refer you to somebody. If you have older documents, and by older I mean 4 years or more, you really need to have them reviewed and updated, because prior to that, things were very, very different as far as the exemption amount. And it used to be $650,000, and over that you paid estate tax. They raised it to $1 million. So a lot of people used to do something called A/B trusts or credit shelter trusts that said, when I die, put the exemption amount into this trust, and then my wife gets everything else. And that way, when she dies, we double the exemption. You don't need to do that anymore because they created something called portability, or if you don't use, you get another car in the fire lane. Now it's a white Subaru. Well, whatever. The problem is a lot of the older documents said something like, put the maximum exemption into my trust and give my spouse the rest. So we had a case, and luckily it wasn't a client of ours, but they came to us after the fact, where the documents had said that this was a second marriage. So the trust, the spouse could get income, but the trust would go to the kids from the first marriage. And then the spouse would get everything else to live on. Well, the intent was about $1 million would go into the trust, and then there was another $2 million the spouse would get. Well, they didn't update the documents. The guy died last year, and the exemption's now, $11 million. Basically, the spouse got disinherited because everything went in the trust. The spouse had nothing because the way it was drafted said the maximum credit, which had changed. We've had cases where someone passed away and life insurance policies, beneficiaries weren't changed, and they go to the wrong person. And you can't change that. I mean, once it's done, it's done. So I'd encourage you at the very least, and that's why every time you come in, we're going to ask you about the beneficiaries. I know it probably seems redundant and annoying, but you'd be surprised how often, things change. Some grandkid ticks you off and you don't want them in there. So is any of this stuff working? We talk about what happened, and it's not even been a year. And when you think about it, the Tax Act was passed in February. I would suggest it is. Through the third quarter, gross domestic product is up or growing about 3.5%. Back prior to 2016, the administration said we could never even hit 2% again. It's impossible. And we're closing in on 4% based on the last quarter's numbers. They talk a lot about the federal debt, and that's true. The debt and the deficit are huge, and you're going to hear about that, no doubt. But it's the wrong question. The size of the debt and the deficit's the shortfall for any given year. The debt's the cumulative amount the government owes. It's significant, but the bigger question is, what's the income to the debt look like? It's kind of like if you came to me and said, last year I spent $50,000, and this year I'm going to spend $5 million. Well, that's a big difference. But it's irrelevant till you know what the income is. Because if last year you made $50,000 and you spent $50, and this year you're going to spend $5 million, but you made $1 billion, who cares? And so if the economy grows 4 to 4.5%, the debt goes away inside of a decade. And that's what happened, under Clinton. We saw things growing. It wasn't a spending cut. It was the fact that the economy grew. And so, is the debt a problem? Potentially. But you really need more information to answer that. Unemployment's 3.7%, lowest rate in years. If you look at African American unemployment, it's the lowest it's ever been. If you look at some of the other sectors, we have 7 million open jobs, biggest number in history. Corporate profits were up 16.1% through the second quarter, which is the largest year-to-year gain, 6 years. Cyber Monday, people spent almost $8 billion, which was up 19% from a year ago. Things are going pretty well, but not to say there aren't problems and there isn't volatility, but I don't think it's this crisis that some people are talking about. So, two questions. Every time the market's gone down, has it come back up over the last 100 years? True or false? Yeah. And every time it's come back up, has it set a new record high? True or false? So why do people worry about it? We know, and granted, past performance doesn't guarantee future results. But I would suggest if you look at where we're at economically, if you look at what's happening, things look pretty good. So why don't people always make money in the market? It's because they jump off of that roller coaster. Or they chase what's just done well. It's like driving down the road looking in the rearview mirror. It works really well as long as the road's straight. But as soon as it turns, you got a problem. So, as Warren Buffett said, the four most dangerous words for investors are this time it's different. Because it's not. It's always the same stuff. And you guys have seen the same thing, because I've said it for 25 years. People are always worried about the economy. The right and the left have different opinions. The left feels the government should spend more. The right feels people should spend more. People are worried about Social Security collapsing. And I would suggest the bigger issue is Medicare. Social Security is probably good for 30 years. Medicare is good for about 5 years under the present terms. People worry about the federal debt, and they always worry about something in the Middle East. And then the other one, there's always some pandemic. From Ebola, remember AIDS, H1N1, bird flu, Zika, SARS. It's always something. 1971. We've been talking about the same stuff for 40 years. So, I don't think it's different. It's the same thing over and over and over. But again, people have this recency bias. If you're driving down Isley Road and there's a cop sitting there, the next day when you go down, are you going to be speeding or not? No, because you think, well, gee, I just saw a cop there. He's probably there. That's recency bias. Or if you think about, if I ask you what you have for lunch every day in the last week, you don't start 7 days ago. You say, okay, yesterday I had this and the day before I had that. So people are always focused on what's happening now. And I would suggest to you one of the biggest differences now is that interest rates are starting to go up, something we haven't seen in 15, 20 years. And so bonds will go down when that happens. Historically, 30-year treasuries are more volatile than the stock market. But over the last 15 years with decreasing interest rates, bonds have been pretty stable. But now, I think the risk is they're going to go down. And so, again, it's not to say you don't own bonds, you just need to be aware of the types and kinds that you have. We would suggest there's 3 reasons that you should make adjustments to your portfolio. First and foremost is because of your needs changing. Second, when we look at the investments, we have about 29 metrics we're looking at for anything. And keep in mind, we don't have a list from Raymond James. We're not restricted. We can deal with absolutely anything. And we have an internal investment committee, which is made up of a number of our advisors, and they look at this every month. They look at the 29 metrics, and then that's how we do what we're doing. So there is a lot going on behind the scenes. Now, at the end of the day, how you're allocated is more important than what you pick. But we do want better performing things. And if something's consistently lagging, we're going to make a change. Or your allocation gets out of whack. And again, allocation is the most important thing. If you say to us, Randy, we want to do your trip to South Africa, we're going to need money for that. Or we're buying a car, we need money for that. We can plan for those things, so we're never forced to sell something. Or typically something goes up a lot, we want to get out of that, not into it. Remember, we don't want to chase what's gone up, we want to rebalance to something that may be lower priced. Allocation accounts for more of return than what you pick. But people spend so much time on, this is the best fund, or this is the best. It's not that important. Has anybody ever baked cookies or a cake? Yeah. So let me ask you this. What's more important, the brand of flour or the ratio of flour to sugar to baking powder? Yeah, the best flour in the world, but if you put a ton of it in there, it ain't gonna work. It's the same thing with the portfolios. And that's why, as Peter Lynch said, far more money's been lost by investors preparing for corrections or trying to anticipate it than in the corrections themselves. So, again, we are pretty optimistic for a lot of reasons. The United States has more proven energy than any other country in the world, more than the Middle East. We have more than 100 years of energy. Corporate profits are at record levels. We're a leader in manufacturing. By the way, we make more stuff than China in terms of dollars and per capita. Foreign investments flooding in. There's a ton of cash on the sidelines. Businesses have restructured their debt, and we're absolutely the worldwide leader, with Israel number 2 in innovation. If you have a smartphone, it was developed here. If you use any of the apps, 90% of them are developed here. Seems like the other 10 are coming out of Israel. But the United States is definitely the leader. American companies are sitting on $1.9 trillion in cash. With the changes to the tax code, I think you're going to see a lot of that invested. And there's a lot of it overseas. Apple has 89% of its money overseas. Microsoft has 91%. That's why they don't pay taxes here. But with the changes, I think you're going to see some of that coming back. Manufacturing, again, they call it reshoring. It's coming back to the United States. 600,000 jobs, 2017. Huge foreign investment. Back in November, the China Energy Corp signed an agreement with West Virginia. They're investing $83.7 billion in some shale gas development. Beginning of 2018, Fiat, which is an Italian company, is going to invest $1 billion in Michigan. They give a bunch of bonuses to people. And then manufacturing. Americans produce about 20% of this stuff in the world with 4.5% of the population. China does about 17% of the stuff. And they've got 19% of the population. So per capita and in absolute terms, we definitely out-manufacture. You don't hear about that in the media. I hear about our tariffs and trade war, which seems to be working because we're getting some concessions out of them. And then while the U.S. produces 20% of the world's goods within our shores, American companies are making 30 to 40% of everything in the world. So, what happens is people get real excited up here and here, then it starts to come down, and they tend to get kind of despondent, like March of 2009. They jump out pretty much at the worst time. I don't know if we're here or we're here, but again, I don't think it really matters over time. But I say our process is really based on you. It's more of a holistic process, because it's not necessarily about what you make with investments. If you save money on taxes or you save money on expenses, then it puts money in your pocket, and that's really what it's all about. So I'd say we do take a team-based approach. You can speak to any of the advisors at any time. Of course, any of the associates as well. In the annual report, it does talk about who to speak to for what. And certainly if you need a distribution, you have a question on where a check is, again, you could speak to any of the team. Frankly, I don't even know how to do that. I just take the checks, I don't send them out. So, we do have a strong plan in place. As far as a succession plan, we really have 3 generations of planners at this point. Myself and Mark being kind of the older 2. You have Nick and Cale, and then we've got Bobby and Nancy, and then you've got Joe, Raj, and Dan that have come in. And we're continuing to hire with that in mind so that we can work across the generations. And then, like I say, behind the scenes, there's a lot of things going on with our processes, our team, our goals. And I think, again, a lot of that's outlined in the books. And finally, we will be starting a building expansion in April, hopefully. This is what it looks like. The existing building ends right about there. I'm going to go straight back. Yes, we do have parking further back, because people keep asking, where are we going to park? No, we're not buying the dry cleaner because it's so polluted. I don't think anybody's ever going to buy that. But the plan is to start in April. We should finish in October. We will have a separate website to keep people updated on the construction. We appreciate people's patience, because obviously there are going to be some challenges with parking and traffic. We will continue to do some in-office appointments, but certainly if people want to do phone appointments, Skype, video conference, we can do that at any time. But especially during the construction, that may be something to think about. And again, we'll keep everyone updated, both with written stuff, and then Kelly's going to be launching a specific website so you can see what's happening, get updates on that. But we're pretty excited. It's about 6,000 square feet we're adding to the back. So we're adding conference rooms, offices, huge lobby. So it's going to be really cool, and we're excited. So, before I bring Josh up, any questions for me? Okay. So, Josh, Vice President of Wealth Management, he's been with Raymond James for about 18 years. Josh was in charge of a lot of the technology prior to changing positions. And what he's going to really talk about is some of the changes, some of the resources for you. And then we're going to finish up just listing some events. So, Josh.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Randy, and everybody else on Carver Financial Services. Really appreciate being able to be here and talk with you this morning. Like Randy said, I'm going to talk a little bit about our company and what supports Carver Financial Services. So I'll start off with a little bit of an overview here. Hopefully everybody can see the slides okay, but if you have any questions, I'll be around as well afterwards for a few minutes to help with any questions. So you have your relationship with Carver Financial Services, and there's a team of 20 there, and as Randy said, continue to add more bodies to that to help you out. Well, behind Randy and his team, there's about 5,000 people in our corporate headquarters spread out in St. Petersburg, Florida, as well as Southfield, Michigan, and Memphis, Tennessee primarily, to be able to support them in anything that they need. So whether it's a particular type of product or investment opportunity that you're looking for, or just help with any type of item from a trust capability, from our bank, from any type of need that you might have, we have those resources that can support Randy and his team with everything that's going on within your lives. So a little bit of background about the firm. So we do have a global presence. There are about 7,700 different financial advisors affiliated with Raymond James, about $754 billion in assets, and our credit rating is BBB+. So that's a very high credit rating for a private firm or for a publicly traded firm. We have over 3,000 locations, but one of the things I think that would be very interesting for this group is our founder, Bob James, he's from Ohio. Our firm is founded from a lot of the Midwest. So even though it's based in Florida, it's very much a Midwest firm. I'm from Central Illinois myself, but a lot of people are from the Midwest. And whenever our Chief Executive Officer, our CEO, gets up and talks, no matter if it's to shareholders, if it's to our advisors, if it's to us in the home office, he starts off with a slide, and there's 3 bubbles on it. First one is integrity. The second one is independence, and the third is conservatism. So our company is founded on making sure those are our core 3 principles, and that all supports our client-first approach to everything that we're doing, and making sure that Randy and Carver Financial Services has everything that they need, and that anything that would be needed by you as well is available. So one of the ways we approach that with our conservatism standpoint is, as a financial services company, there are certain requirements the government places on us for how much capital we need to have on hand. So total capital ratio is 10% is the requirement. Raymond James has 2.5 times that requirement, just to make sure that we have anything on hand that is needed. The Tier 1 leverage ratio is 3 times the requirement at over 15%. But if you remember about 10 years ago when the quote-unquote Great Recession was in place, we were one of the firms that did not need to take any government money as part of that in order to make sure everything was available. We were not under any restrictions. We were able to make sure that we could operate as normal without any of those items in place. So that's just something that kind of goes to support everything that you're doing, everything that you have as you grow towards your retirement and leaving that legacy as well. Couple items I want to highlight here for you. First, we do have a bank. It is Raymond James Bank. They provide a lot of services and capability. Randy and team can provide those out to you and make sure that that's a good fit for you. But a couple things I want to highlight just related to protection. So everything is FDIC insured. For single accounts or joint accounts, it's about $250,000 per person at any particular financial institution. So we make sure that you have that proper coverage for any of those cash reserves that you might have. And again, Carver Financial remains as your local point of contact and your first point of contact for anything related to that. I think everybody's familiar with FDIC insurance, but just to kind of back that up, since it was established, no depositors ever lost a single penny of FDIC insured funds. So just want to make sure you're aware of that coverage. We also have our trust company. So if you do have a trust, they can help us work with that. It was established in 1982. They can be the trustee or co-trustee, custodian, personal representative, or agent to the trustee. Where that may be important for you is if you're leaving money to the kids or grandkids or whoever it may be, you might want to have more of an independent, unbiased third party as the trustee as far as distributing those funds. Sometimes it's difficult for a parent to be the trustee over their child's assets. So this way it gives you a different way to approach that. Randy and team can talk to you if that's a right fit for you, if you do have any need or interest in setting that up in that type of manner. Next thing, shifting gears a little bit. Recently, we made some updates to our systems. Particularly, we switched from Investor Access, which is our online portal, to Client Access. So a slight shift in the name and definitely a shift in some of the functionality. How many of you are currently using the Client Access system to look at your accounts and information online? So a good portion of you. If you're not already doing that and you would like to, you can get to that site by going to Carver Financial Services website and logging on to Client Access. You can set up your own individual logins if you would like, or that's also where you can access it going forward. So I was going to highlight a couple of things that have changed recently on here. And if you look across the top, everything is very similar, as we have a different tabular approach to how you can view those different items and get to the different data. So the first section I have on here is just your summary page, and this is under the My Account section of Client Access. On the summary page, it's going to list all the accounts that you have. You can group them particular ways. It's going to give you some different charts that you can view. And then one thing I want to highlight is it typically shows up where your accounts are collapsed or how you have them grouped. You can expand that down if you would like to expand it down and get a little bit more details about those accounts right on the screen. I'm going to shift next over to the portfolio section. And so this is where you can look more detailed at your individual holdings, at your activity, gain loss information. The part I have where the red arrow is where you can choose which accounts you're viewing. So sometimes you might want to look at just one particular account. You want to zero in on some different information. This is going to let you look more specifically at what you want to be able to see and be able to either group accounts or just see some of those specific accounts you want to view the activity or information on. There's also the Analysis tab. What this lets you do is look more graphically at what is going on in your account. So this is a value over time chart that's being displayed. There's also asset allocation charts and product type allocation charts that you can view as well just by navigating across where these different tabs are in the middle of the page. Now, also across the top here, as you look in this middle section, there are going to be some different areas. So there's a Documents tab. So if you receive your documents electronically, so you don't have to receive all that extra paper in the mail, this is where you'd be able to view those. There's online bill pay. And there's also a place where if you want to move money into your account or out of your account to your bank account that's on file, you have the ability to do some of that as well. Obviously, you can also reach out to Randy and team also. Now, I shifted from the My Account section on the top tabs here into the Vault. And so the Vault is something that we find a lot of people take advantage of. There's a lot of you that aren't taking advantage of this Vault capability. This is a secure online place where you can store any type of documents you might have. So if you do have a trust document or a will or estate planning documents, a lot of people even will put their passports in there or their medical cards, insurance cards, so that way you can have access to them wherever you are and be able to pull those up. So it's something that you're able to go in and do. It also lets you come in and you can create new folders and where you can upload any of those documents very easily. So where I have the little red squares in the middle, this lets you come in and create those folders. So if you want to organize all the different types of documents, examples here is insurance policies, legal documents, or just any other financial statements you might want to be able to view. So this gives you some different information and capability from that standpoint to get everything organized and set up how you need it to be. All right. Switching over to some of your mobile capabilities. Both for smartphone or tablet, you have a mobile app. And so this is where if you are out and you have stored some of those documents into the Vault, you're going to be able to access those right from your mobile phone or from your tablet device that you may have. This also lets you go in and see all your account information as well. So it's a great way to have everything at your fingertips if you need to pull some information up. You can find find it on the App Store, for Android, for iPhone, for whatever type of device to be able to download those. And you can search for Client Access or you can search Raymond James in the App Store in order to pull those up. A couple other features I want to highlight within Client Access. I mentioned earlier where you can view your documents online. So if you're tired of getting all your statements and confirms and any of that activity sent to the mail, or you're not sure what to do with it when you receive it, you can start receiving all of this or viewing it electronically online. Now, when you first sign up for Client Access, it'll walk you through and give you options for what you want to receive electronically. Or once you've already set up, once you go into the Account Services tab up here at the top, your first option there is going to be Client Tools, and that's going to let you go in and select what types of documents you would like to receive electronically. Now, in the box at the bottom, I've highlighted a couple of things, but you can choose if you want to receive it electronically or if you want to continue to get some things in paper format. It doesn't have to be everything electronically. So if you want to get your tax reporting documents sent via paper, have those sent via paper, but maybe you want to have your monthly statements or your trade confirms sent electronically. So there's just different options that are available to you that might benefit and make it a little bit easier to keep everything organized and not have piles of extra paper floating around throughout your house. So the comment here related to some of the different cybersecurity pieces, one of the ways that you can protect yourself online is a lot of sites do offer a two-factor or dual enhanced authentication when you're logging in. And this is something that we want to encourage you to do if you're not already doing. On the Raymond James Client Access site, again, in the Client or Account Services area and under Client Tools, when you scroll down to the bottom, it's going to let you select if you would like to receive a text message or a phone call with a security code for when you're logging in. Again, most sites do offer this, and we do encourage you to take advantage of that whenever you can. Again, definitely something that's available on our site, and recommend that you are following that procedure and protocol. And speaking of cybersecurity, down at our home office, we have what we call our Cyber Threat Center. So this is 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, monitoring all the different activity that's going across the Raymond James network. So whether you're logging in, anything that's going on related to our systems, related to anything, it's being monitored. We also make sure anybody that is connecting into our system goes through a virtual private network. So Carver Financial Services and everything there is set up in a very secure manner to make sure any data that's transmitted or is handled is all secure. We have a very strict process and procedures that go into place in making sure all of your data, all your information is safe and secure from that standpoint. But it's a state-of-the-art facility, and we do have a brochure that we've put out. It highlights a lot of different items, but really the core of it is our promise. And so what our promise is, and we're the only firm that puts this out there in writing, is we will reimburse you for any losses that you have in any of your Raymond James accounts due to unauthorized access to a Raymond James system that occurs through no fault of your own. So that's pretty powerful. If something were to happen, we're going to make sure you are reimbursed fully for that type of situation or for whatever that amount might be. The only issue I will tell you is do not, post your password and log in on social media. We're not going to cover that. But we will cover for any unauthorized access through no fault of your own. So just again, that's something that's out there. Randy and his team are there to support it as well. But just want to make sure we do take everything very seriously. We want to make sure everything is covered for you from that standpoint. Now, shifting to another topic, I wanted to talk through some of our longevity resources. Now, these are some new resources that we've created partnerships with in a few key areas to help, and it's really designed as everybody is starting to live longer. What are some of the resources? What are some of the tools and opportunities and things that might help you as you go through and continue to live longer? So we've come up with what we call our longevity wheel, and it's really focused on a few different areas. So Randy and team already have the financial planning part down. They're handling that for you. They're working and managing all of that. But we continue to add different resources to help you with some of those key things, whether it's housing, transportation, healthcare, caregiving, and really focus in on those. Where your money goes in retirement, roughly 35%, oh, sorry, that slide didn't come through right, but 35% of it is housing, and 13% of it, the areas highlighted there, are healthcare. So as from that standpoint, that's a big portion of where your income and where your money goes as you enter into retirement. So we have a couple of these partnerships. One of the first ones is a company called Broadspire. And this is something that you can contact and sign up for. And on your table, are some of these sheets. They're the blue single page sheets. It's going to give a little bit of information about those and different websites you can go to if you are interested in any of these. Carver Financial Services can help with questions as well, but these sites are really where you can go directly and be able to get any of that information. So the first company that's listed on there is Broadspire. This is they are here and they will help with any type of decisions related to aging in place. If you're looking at any type of assisted living, memory care, nursing home type facility, and this can be for something that you're considering, it can be for your parent, for your grandparent, for whoever may be in need of this type of assistance. But they can come out, and what they will do is they can assess and make any recommendations. Do you need any of those stabilizing bars in the shower, in the bathroom, in different areas? Do they recommend widening your halls or making changes to the entrance to your house to make it easier to get in and out of if there's a need for a wheelchair or other type of things? And can really help make assistance in what it is that will make it the safest possible environment for you to continue living and staying in your home. So most people do want to stay in their home as they age, and this is a resource that can help you do it in the safest and best way possible. But they'll come out and they can do individualized care plans for seniors or any clients with special needs. And what they'll do is, again, anything from a minor home modification to help finding any type of facility if you're looking to move out of the house and be able to go into, again, whatever type of progressive assisted living type of place where it's on your own, all the way through full care, memory care, anything of that nature. And we have negotiated a discounted rate. So this is something that it's an hourly rate that they would charge, and it is available for you, and then come out, and most times depending upon the situation, but it's usually between 5 to maybe 10 hours of time that they would be out going through and helping with this whole process. But it does vary, some are less than that, but it can be a great assistance as you're going through from that standpoint. So that is one opportunity that we have out there. Another one that we have tied more into healthcare is Pinnacle Care. Now this is a program where they can come through and they're essentially a healthcare concierge, and they can help assist with any type of difficult diagnosis, with anything that you might need from a healthcare perspective, navigating the healthcare system, helping get medical records transferred if you need to go in to see a specialist, helping you get in to see the specialist and to see the right specialist or to get a second opinion. We have countless numbers of anecdotal stories from some of our clients of where they've gone in and they've been having a hard time getting in to see a doctor, and Pinnacle Care has helped them get in to see that doctor almost immediately, being able to get in to have the right procedures done, making sure that it is what is absolutely necessary to be done. Again, help you find the best treatment, schedule appointments, coordinate getting a second opinion, helps with whatever, again, that exact specialist is. So the Mayo Clinic is widely known as one of the best places to go to see specialists, but that's not always the best place to go for certain diagnoses or certain things. So that way they'll help you make sure you are getting into that appropriate person. Again, right now we're the only broker-dealer, we're the only firm of our nature that has this type of relationship. Now, another way I've seen people use this is if their kids are going away to college across the country, they can help find a doctor that accepts your health insurance and helps make sure that they have the right coverage as well. Now for this one, this type of service usually costs $8,000 up to $20,000 for this type of service. But with our discounted rates that comes to you through Randy and team, it is $225 a year for an individual or $395 for a family. So this is something that's very affordable to be able to take a lot of that weight off your shoulders and navigating through if you do have a health situation that you would like assistance with. So that's out there, and again, that's highlighted on that sheet as well. The next topic is getting into elder fraud. And there's a couple stats here that I think are quite telling, but $36.5 billion is lost each year in the US to elder financial fraud. 4 in 10 seniors are affected by financial fraud during any given 5-year period. So this is something that is affecting a lot of people. So in Florida, we hear of a lot of people who they're approached to buy boat insurance, but they don't have a boat. Salesperson was really nice, so they went ahead and bought it. They were too embarrassed to cancel it, and they're just like, it's good. So what we've done is we have a partnership with a firm called EverSafe. Now the key differentiator for EverSafe versus all the other credit monitoring types of services is, first, you can sign up for just their basic credit monitoring services all the way through at different levels, all the way the quote unquote dark web of what information is out there and available. But the key thing in my mind that helps differentiate it is you can set up trusted advocates. So if there are your kids, your heirs, someone you trust, you can set that up so they would get notified if you do have anything that pops up through their routine screenings and making sure everything is available. So this ranges from $6 a month up to $18 a month. And again, there's a discounted rate because of the Raymond James and Carver Financial Services affiliation. So this is something that you can take advantage of and again, be able to provide that next level of service and credit monitoring. So definitely recommend you have some type, but this is a way to help kind of differentiate and make sure if something does occur, you can be notified of that, and the other people that you trust and know can be notified of that as well. So these are optional items that we have brought to the table, different resources that we have gone through and vetted with all of our resources, made sure that they are someone that we feel comfortable recommending and making sure it's something that you could have confidence in using if these are things that would fit for you. Again, these are available to you. They're available to any of your family. Whoever these are a good fit for, you can spread that as part of the Carver Financial Services capabilities. So again, on your table, you have those blue sheets. Those do give you the websites for where you can go and sign up for this information and be able to get more of those details that you might want to need if that's a good fit. And again, I just want to end on this slide again. You have that great relationship with Carver Financial Services, but they have that enormous breadth of resources that are behind them to be able to support everything that they're doing for you. So really just want to make sure, and I'm sure you all understand, just how much we appreciate the relationship we have with Carver Financial Services and what a great team that you have the opportunity to work with them. So thank you very much for your time. I'll turn it back over to Randy.
Thanks, Josh. A couple last things before we finish up, and I do appreciate you coming out. We are trying to work towards more of these resources that you have access to, especially the other ones with long-term care planning, Medicare planning. So again, as we do the reviews and the meetings, we could talk about those things. These services, as Josh said, Raymond James has negotiated highly discounted group rates. We cannot sign you up for this. You need to go direct to do it. But again, we'd encourage you to look at that. We do have a lot of upcoming events. I just wanted to mention a few things before we wrap up. March 20th, we have John Choate. This one, we had some cards out. It's hard to explain, but it's a very timely thing. John Choate was head of SEAL Team 6. He's a personal security expert. He worked on the Bin Laden raid. He works with very, very wealthy individuals and with foreign governments as well as the U.S. government developing security protocols. He's going to come in, he's going to be talking about things you can do to protect yourself when you travel, when you're around town, where's the best place to sit on an airplane. If, God forbid, you get into an active shooter situation, what can you do, which is happening more and more, things you should just pay attention to. So that's going to be March 20th. You're welcome to invite family or friends. In May, we're going to do a town hall on estate planning, talking especially about digital estate planning, what you need to think about with regard to your social media and some of your other online stuff. Ohio just passed some rules with regard to that. We have our golf outing, we have our captain's game, and then September 20th. How many of you guys saw the movie The Pursuit of Happiness with Will Smith? Pretty good movie, had his kid in it. So that movie's about a gentleman named Chris Gardner. We have Chris Gardner coming, the person that made the movie about. We're going to do that at the Mentor Fine Arts or whatever it's called by the high school. We only have 1,500 seats because that's all it says. So if you're interested, once we send out the details, I'd encourage you to sign up. I've heard Chris speak before. Phenomenal story. Next year, a couple of weeks, we have our trip to South Africa. Next year, we're looking at actually 2 trips. Right now, we have about 40 people signed up to go to Tokyo. So we do a trip to Tokyo just prior to the Olympics. And then if you want to go to the Olympic events, our travel people will set that up for you. It's a shorter pre-trip. It's 4 days, but it's a long way to go for 4 days. So if you want to do that. And then we're looking at adding another trip. I don't have details. It'll be February or March next year. Ritz-Carlton has just launched 3 yachts, and we're looking at doing one of the yachts. It'll probably be a Caribbean trip, Colombia to Bermuda. That's what we're looking at. Where you go is not important. It's the ship is just unbelievably amazing. If you want to Google Ritz-Carlton yachts, we should have information. As always, we'll try and negotiate a group rate, but we'll do some special stuff. And then if you guys have ideas for 2021, let us know. So with that, we appreciate it coming out. If you have questions, again, our team will be around. Josh will be around. And then Joe Tomsick and Ann Sheely will be around. So thank you very much.